you guys as well. So I'm very happy to have you. And I want to chat with you because obviously I've seen you training clients in the past in hybrid, and I was never trained by you. I only
No?
trained with, yeah, I only trained with you in Jiu-Jitsu. So I want to know more about you and, particularly like in your profession, like you have so many experience. And I know you have traveled to different countries as well to coach in the past, and you also specialize in different areas. For example, like strength and conditioning, you also do like help clients to do body transformation, nutrition planning. So I was wondering, of all these different like principles, like is there any one favorite area you enjoy the most, or is there any particular area you also focused on training now? Like,
Um, well, I mean, I guess over the years it's changed. I mean, I've been doing this almost 30 years now. So, when I first started, it was pretty much more like bodybuilding, like most guys that get into the weights. And then it became about, how strong I could be or how strong I could make my clients. And for most now, it's just more about health and wellness. I mean, most of everything I do is towards making people move better.
mm,
And I guess it's just something that's it's just been an evolution, really, and especially because of jiu-jitsu. Especially as I'm getting older, I've noticed that the thing that keeps me off the mats is more likely how I move versus how strong I am. So I don't know. So for me now, and most of the people I train are over 40, and they're
mm,
people that have
mm.
uh, they're basically people that have either neglected or abused their bodies most of their life, and now they come to me to sort it out. So it's I mean, that's kind of where I'm at now.
That's amazing. By how you mean like making people move better? Like, what do you really mean? What do you like? What do you make them do? Like,
Well, I mean, okay, so specifically, there's a couple of areas of modalities that I'm more interested in. One is the functional range conditioning via a gentleman called Andrea Spina. And then there's another guy called Aaron Lucas, which is range of strength. Um, I mean, I'm always trying to figure out who's out there that's smarter than I am, older than I am, and still moving
mm,
better than I am. Um, and so I guess it was just one of those things that, like, most people that join the gym to begin with, they do one of three things. They either join because they like classes, they either join because they like cardio, or they join because they
mm,
like training weights. But all of these things can benefit from how well you move. And the biggest thing that I've noticed within all gym environments is most people are really good at moving in one direction. They're not very good at
mm,
moving outside of like laterally or rotational. And so I don't know. I just, even myself, for example, like when I first started jujitsu back in 2010, all I cared about was how much I could deadlift. And for some reason, I seem to think that that would make me better at jiu-jitsu. So I was like, if I just get stronger,
yeah,
let's get stronger, I'm going to be better. And then I soon
mm,
realized that people that could actually move their bodies better, given a similar skill environment or similar weight size, they were always doing better
mm.
than me. So, and it's one of those sort of things that, I mean, I'm 48 this year, so uh,
That's
like
your
having a huge amount of strength beyond what I need doesn't appeal to me anymore. Almost the people I train.
true. That's interesting because like at different age you start to see things differently, and then you have a different focus area, and that also impacts your profession, like how you see and how you train clients. Do you then choose the client base then, now that you have more experience? Will you be more picky? Or if anyone comes to you, you still like tailor the program?
Um, I've always been very lucky. I mean, and I've always been or attracted the right sort of clients, and so I think, if I'm honest, like I would say 90% of the people I train now are males over 40. Um, they
Mm,
tend to be high net worth professionals who they outsource their health. Um, it hasn't always been that way. I mean, when I first started training people, it was teaching people how to Thai box back in the 90s. Um, and then it was I worked specifically with men who were interested in bodybuilding when I was in my 20s. Uh,
Mm,
and then I moved to a small place in England called Bath, and it was very
mm,
much soccer mums. So sometimes the place you're at. And I think in Hong Kong, for example, uh, specifically at this point in time, uh, the sort of people that can afford personal training or will sort of seek it out tend to be
mm,
very like professionals who are so busy they can't do it
professional.
themselves.
Yeah, professional. Yeah.
Um, and then I guess it's
True.
also one of these sort of things that, I mean, as I'm sure you're aware, like there are many places in Hong Kong where someone could go for transformations. So I tend to end up with the sort of people that I want to train and that I'm looking for. That that they're basically, they don't move very well. They're not very healthy. Uh, yeah. So I think since the
Yeah,
last
yeah,
time I
yeah.
met you, I left working hybrid, and now I run a studio called Raw Personal Training. And our whole sort of
Yeah,
mantra is about health and wellness. We don't necessarily care so
yeah,
much about getting somebody in shape in 12 weeks. We're more focused on how to change somebody's life for the better, and how to teach them skills so they don't need us.
true. So you're more like a border principle, like teaching them really about lifestyle change and not just about getting stronger. Like so, and then the place where you're in also impact your clients. Like say
Yes.
like as you said in Hong Kong, yeah, more like busy professionals, like they can manage it themselves.
Yeah.
And I was wondering then, mm, yeah,
No, keep going. Keep going.
oh no, go on, Sean. Oh no, go on, Sean.
I guess it's like when you like every single place I've worked at has been slightly different. Like when I worked in Kuwait for a small amount of time, uh, it was more
Mm,
about weight loss because most of the people that came to me from there, like diabetes is a huge problem there. You know, and so pretty much nearly every single person I saw had some form of weight loss in mind or aesthetics.
mm,
Um,
mm.
I think the UK, for example, I think you have a wider variety of people that want training or people who actually understand training. Uh, and then it's also like cost prohibitive. As you know, Hong Kong, for whatever reason, has a very the sort of people that will come to training on a regular basis. They themselves probably wouldn't if they were back in their home country. So it's a
Yeah,
very unique place in that way. Um,
yeah,
and then also, like I said, post COVID, most of the people that tend to be here at the moment are older professionals, because there were a lot
mm.
of the sort of
Yeah,
younger professionals had families that had either left.
they
Um,
left.
yeah, and
So
so what's
everything
been
impacts.
yeah,
Yeah,
it had a huge impact
yeah.
on our business. Like being closed for nearly 44 weeks in the last 3 years was challenging.
So as a personal trainer, like you in industry, you really have to be flexible in terms how to adapt like to the like such a dynamic change and like drastic change over the past few years. It's interesting to know because I'm not in this industry. I am like more like a client myself training in different gyms. So in my mind, I always thought like it's always the same field goals like personal trainers will be focusing on at weight loss, getting stronger. But now having heard of you is more interesting, actually more than that. And in different places, you have a different client base. And it's interesting to know because it was never in my mind like that. And do you have one specific country you like then? Because you have obviously trained and traveled in different places. Is there one particularly memorable country and you like? And if you could go back, you will.
I'm not sure if anyone stood out more than anything else.
Mm,
I'm grateful for every single place that I've had an opportunity to work because, coming from New Zealand, which is a very small place, and having the opportunity to work in countries all over the world it's been a blessing. Pardon me. I I have to say, in the early 2000s, working in England was amazing. It was a place that was it was very vibrant. It was full of hope, and it was great fun. I mean, London in the early 2000s to 2006 was amazing.
Mm,
My favorite place so far of anywhere that I've ever been, and I'm not sure if it was just the place or a combination of the place, my clients, and the time, would be Bath, in the UK.
mm,
Um,
mm,
uh, I mean, I had some great clients. I had a lot of good friends. Life was good. It's a beautiful city. So it was very idyllic in many ways.
yeah.
And then I would say after that, probably my next favorite. I mean, when I first came to Hong Kong in 2017, it was an amazing place. It was because the country itself is so
Yeah.
small. It,
You,
like
you
everything
miss
is packed into a very small space.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, if you can be bothered to go out of your little bubble, like there's everything here.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
yeah. So like I said, I mean, I'm just very lucky.
That's really nice to know. I mean, definitely I have to go to you for UK advice. Like anything, you can recommend me some places to train or like professionals, etc. And I agree. Like Hong Kong is like everything you can have in such a small place. I mean, things change, but I do miss home as well sometimes. But anyway, going back to you as a personal trainer, I also know you trained as a strength and conditioning coach in the past, and you work with
Hmm.
different athletes.
Hmm.
Um, so obviously, because you train with a diverse base of clients, and particularly on athletes, everyone trains in different sports and they have different focus, and they also go through different emotion because it's not like in personal trainers or as you earlier mentioned, only professionals who try to move well or get in shape. For these athletes, they also try to compete and have good achievements in their sports, right? So when it comes to you, and how do you tailor the specific programs? How do you get to know them? Is there any general guidelines you follow so that you can make a specific program for them? And how do you deal with
Um,
their emotions then?
I guess. I mean, so most of my personal experience, I would say, with actually training athletes has probably come more from either like grappling or the fighting sports. And so normally the things that I would look at is first of all, does the person have any competitions or any fights coming up?
Mm,
Because you always start backwards from where their fight date or competition date is, and then you work backwards to create the program.
ah,
Um, if the person themselves doesn't have any kind of fight or anything coming up, then the first things I try to look at is what what sort of athlete are they? Like as I'm
mm,
sure if you use jujitsu as an analogy, you've got some people who move very well. You've got some people who are just all about pressure. There's some people who like the top game, some people like the bottom game.
yeah,
So it's trying to figure out what's they're missing, and then see if
mm,
I can fill in the gaps. I mean, to
mm,
be completely honest, that the strength and conditioning part of it is probably the smallest part of an athlete's profile. Um, I mean,
mm,
the I'm very lucky. I get mentored by a gentleman who's a guy called Doctor Christian Cook, and he was the guy that actually first got me to come along and do internships with different athletes. So I got to do stuff
mm,
with, some of the uh, the British Olympic team for different disciplines, as
yeah,
well as England rugby. And I guess the things that I most noticed was that most of it is just making sure that the athlete is healthy, not injured, and then trying to figure out how to squeeze the last little bit out of them.
I
So
see.
it's yeah,
So it's a different mindset because they're already like more in shape, a bit more in shape. And what you're looking at is what little extra thing you can do to help them get the best out of their
yeah.
performance.
I mean, uh, and this might be a slightly controversial way to look at it, but I mean, to be a good athlete, you kind of need to be a little bit selfish. You have to have a very
Mm,
single-minded focus because at the
mm,
end of the day, I mean, you want to be the best, and
true,
so it's all about you.
true.
And I mean, like. the weight room, as much as people would like to believe that it's a special place, nothing can replace the actual skill of what the person does, and it's very hard to
Mm,
replicate that. It's more that you're just trying to figure out how to squeeze the last little 1 or 2% out of somebody to maybe give them that edge, whether it's
mm,
mentally, whether it's physically. I mean, sometimes even like a workout, for example, there's a gentleman called James Clear who wrote a book,
mm.
Atomic Habits,
Yeah.
and he noticed that like some of the best athletes in the world, one of the reasons they're really good is they're good at repetitive stuff. They're okay with life being boring. Because I mean, think about it. I mean,
That's
like
interesting. Yeah.
it's not like when you go into the gym every day, it's exciting.
Yeah,
You know,
true.
you
You're
know,
repeating some stuff, similar
no, I
stuff.
mean,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's like you turn up, you do the same warm up, you do the same weights.
Yeah,
I mean, it really is about consistency and being able to just embrace like repetitiveness, and
yeah.
it sounds so cliched.
I totally agree because and to be honest, well, when I moved here like 8 months ago, I'm actually training more of by myself now in the
Hmm.
gym. And in the beginning, I was looking for some guidance because it's not like hybrid. You can just go to classes easily here.
Hmm.
I mean, so you have to join a gym, and they do have classes, but I also want to follow a training program. So I kind of find an online training program, and then weeks by weeks, I've started to realize it's similar. And I started to lose a bit of like interest and focus to go to the gym because I can already foresee what's next week coming. It's the same
Hmm.
movement for training upper body or lower body. So yeah, I totally agree. That's why you have to be consistent. And even though there are repetitive movements, like you have to go and train to get the most out of you.
Well, yeah, I
But
mean, you said you
yeah,
fall in love with the process.
exactly. And there's one interesting thing because you mentioned earlier talking about athletes, if they have competitions coming up, you work backwards the timeline to see what you need to train, and you factor that in and then plan your training program. So, for example, if I'm have using BJJ as well,
Hmm.
if I have a competition coming up, so what is your advice? Like, when should I start coming to seek you for your training? Like, how many weeks earlier should, like, in general, like, how many time I need to prepare ahead?
I
Do you
mean, if we're talking like a professional jiu-jitsu player, then I mean, I would like to think that they were in shape all year round. But like, let's say, for example, we'd never met each other, and that this person just found me. Um, I would like a minimum of 12, if not 16 weeks to get somebody ready for something.
mm,
Because it gives you time to be able to build training blocks, but also to be able to build a relationship with the person.
true.
Because it's not just about like being able to pick stuff up, put stuff down, or just follow the reps or load the weight. You also get to know like the person in their life, how they deal
Yeah.
with stress. I mean, like it's like a lot of, I guess, sports people and so forth. Being mentally strong is something that's more
Mm,
important than just being technically good or being like great in the weight room.
true.
Um, but I
I
guess, yeah,
totally
if I was to, I mean, ideally 12 weeks
agree.
would be the minimum, but optimal would be about 16 weeks because it gives you time to iron out anything. And as you know, I mean, a lot of jiu-jitsu players, if you've been doing it long enough, then your body carries, you've always got some little niggle or some little injury in the background.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
trying to figure out how to compensate for that and
true.
either to be able to work around it or to be able to fix it.
Mm, agree. I totally agree. Um, I have to admit myself, I'm not mentally strong myself. Actually, I think last week I was training jujitsu. I was trying to, the position was knee shield. I was trying to
Mm-hmm.
pass guard, and somehow the guy at the bottom doing the knee shield suddenly raised his knee up and hit my mouth. I was breathing, and suddenly it got like, it was a bit of a cut. And so it got a bit down and I lost the mood to train anymore. I mean, it's not such a big thing. And then I looked at my work phone and I saw emails coming in. It was at night. I was like, oh God, I lost the mood to train. I was like, so I said to the professor, I'm sorry, but I have to leave earlier. And now that I have a breathing mouth and suddenly I see work coming in. I suddenly lost the mood to train, but I should have stayed if I look back. So I definitely have to work on the mental side. And
No, I mean, I think like jujitsu is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life.
yeah,
I'm yet to meet the person that ever walks onto the mats as amazing straight away. And that's one of the things that makes it such a great martial art is that like everybody can learn.
true.
So I guess the approach that, and especially as I'm getting older when I go in now, because up until my blue belt, everything was about just smashing people. Like I had zero technique. All I cared about was being on top and smashing people. If I got put onto my back, I was just like, oh, I tap on, yeah, I'm done. And then, if you're lucky you meet people. So the way I kind of see things now is that, I kind of look at the rule of, there are three different people I like to train with. I want someone who's so much better than me that I can see what I could do. I want somebody who is not as good as me so I can practice stuff I'm not good at. And then I want someone who's a similar level to me so I can see how I'm growing or how I'm evolving. And I don't, it's funny. It's like when I'm rolling with people now, it's the intention that I go into train with. Before I just used to turn up to training and just do whatever I was told. But now when I go in, I think about something that I want to work on and I focus on that. And, and I mean, if I'm honestly, the big thing that keeps me going back is it's like therapy.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So, I mean, when we talk about the mind and so forth, it's like, I mean, just turning up to jiu-jitsu is such a hard thing sometimes because you're going to get your butt whooped.
It is.
There's going to be someone who's going to beat you.
Going there.
Yeah, but you put your uniform on, you tie your belt, and you're like, oh, okay, here we go. And then afterwards, it's like, I mean, you just feel good.
Yeah.
So
it's just that little push you have to go to make it there, and then once you're there, you're gonna be good and stuff. And it's so true because I also got advice when I was rolling in Jago. Like I forgot who told me, but he said like have some intention in your mind when you roll. Like don't just roll for the sake of rolling. Like think of what you want to practice or that specific drill you have on that day. So like roll with intention. I think is like what matters more.